you know well in your role, especially around sleep, that sometimes we know what we're meant to be doing. So a lack of information isn't always the challenge that we have. It's actually turning up for ourselves and doing what we need to feel good. And that can be challenging, especially if there's hormonal stuff going on, but no one's coming to rescue us. The phrase in this house is, I like everyone else better once I'm looking after me. It's not to take away from how rough a time some women can have, either with severe PMS challenges or with in their 40s in particular with perimenopausal changes, or even in their 50s with menopause. You know, for some women, the symptoms of these life changes can be pretty significant. And it is hard to feel good if, you know, as you know, if we're not sleeping well or if we're not firing on all cylinders.
Just a little taster of what is coming up on the show. But first, please do like this video and subscribe to the channel, and also tell your friends and family about this podcast. Please let us know in the comments if you would like to hear any particular topic in relation to sleep or health, and I will create a show especially for you, just for asking the question. So let's get on with the show.
Before we start today's video, please be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any new videos.
Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Empowering Family Health podcast. And as always, I can't wait to dive into this conversation that we're going to have with Ashleigh Tobin today. We are going to be talking all about how our hormonal health can impact our energy, our motivation and contentment levels, and how looking after your basics can help us get our mojo back. That's very, very important. But before we bring Ashleigh in, the Empowering Family Health is all about empowering you and your family, because you know what? It's up to you to take responsibility for your health and your well-being. And in this podcast, all my guests share their insights and wisdom to help you be more educated and be more empowered to take control of your life again. And that's exactly what we are going to be doing in this conversation with Ashleigh, all about hormonal health. Let me read out Ashleigh's bio before we start our conversation. So Ashleigh helps women in their 40s and 50s get their hormones, habits and mojo back on track so that they can take the world on again. Not simply just making it through the day. And through her work as an award-winning speaker and mind coach, as well as her background in nursing, natural health and pharmaceuticals, Ashleigh bridges the gap between conventional and holistic health for her clients and her audience. Perimenopause and menopause can both be times for incredible happiness, achievement, growth and fun once we are looking after ourselves and paying attention to our bodies. So Ashleigh's approach is frank, it's fun, it's pragmatic and soulful, all wrapped up in big hugs and burn kicks. I love it. If you're ready to find your fun, loving self and feel like the real you again, pop your big girl pants on and let's get started. Ashleigh, you're very welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Joanne. Yes, I'm a let's get started sort of girl, because you know well in your role, especially around sleep, that sometimes we know what we're meant to be doing. So a lack of information isn't always the challenge that we have. It's actually turning up for ourselves and doing what we need to feel good. And that can be challenging, especially if there's hormonal stuff going on, but no one's coming to rescue us. And the phrase in this house is, I like everyone else better once I'm looking after me.
That is so true. It always starts for ourselves, but yeah, for most of us, hormonal or not, you know, we blame our circumstances on people around us and outside exterior circumstances, but it's all to do with perspective and how content that we're feeling. You mentioned contentment there in your bio. It's all got to do with that as well. If we're happy and at home with ourselves and really in control of our lives again, and that's what this is all about.
For sure. And, you know, it's not to take away from how rough a time some women can have, either with severe PMS challenges or with in their 40s in particular with perimenopausal changes, or even in their 50s with menopause. You know, for some women, the symptoms of these life changes can be pretty significant. And it is hard to feel good if, you know, as you know, if we're not sleeping well or if we're not firing on all cylinders. So I get it why it can be, but that's where getting information from podcasts such as yours can help so much for people.
Absolutely, because it's different for everybody. And this is the whole point, Ashleigh, I think that you're making, is we're all bio individuals. And, you know, whatever we eat, how we sleep, the exercise we do, our daily activities, we all have different preferences and different likings, and, you know, different foods suit us better than others and all that sort of stuff. So the point is that we need to be aware of what works for us and what doesn't work for us. Before we dive in, Ashleigh, tell us your background. I'm really curious why you got, like you said, you mentioned the bio that you're a nurse. Well, how did you get into this whole area of women's health?
So I always say 200 years ago when I was a nurse. So I qualified in Sir Patrick Dun's Hospital as a nurse many, many years ago, and worked for a few years during the 80s in Ireland. But, you know, you remember that particular recession, and decided that I would leave nursing and move into pharmaceuticals. I then spent 12 years in the pharmaceutical industry across women's health, cardiology, endocrinology, and mental health. And I did a variety of roles there, from sales, marketing, up to the senior leadership team. And I think what it helped me realize is how valuable, and I knew this from nursing, of course, how valuable medicine can be in our lives. But I also saw how siloed sometimes medicine can be, and where sometimes symptoms are seen in isolation, whereas the reality is that we're all inside the same piece of skin, and what is impacting my thyroid may be having an effect on my sleep, on my body temperature, on my mood. And so I became interested in complementary medicine then, and went on to study homeopathy and other modalities, because I thought there are so many great tools available, complementary and conventional medicine. And not everyone is suitable for everyone at every stage. And so I like to think that I will be open to all tools in the box to be able to get the best results. I have my natural health clinic for about 18 years now, and have been working in hormonal health for long more than the 3 or 4 years that it's been on trend here in Ireland. So I've seen what works. I've seen the mad claims. I've seen the daft stuff. And like you've said, and I've heard you say it several times, no matter what treatments or supports we're getting, the first thing that's going to make every single treatment work better is when we're paying attention to our body, when we're become more self-aware of what helps, what doesn't, what we need at different stages. And that's so important.
I love that you mentioned that, because it's so important that we can hear our bodies, you know, like it's not literally another voice, like, you know, when I say that, but like really tune in and feel our body and, you know, what works for us. And we have evolved this way. We've just kind of lost connection with ourselves, you know, through the course of time. And I think it's very important, like even when I'm talking about sleep, you know, and it's a very good idea to track your sleep, and to also record, you know, what you're eating, what you're drinking, you know, and what did I have yesterday or last night that may have interfered with my sleep. And it's the same with anything, like with your hormones as well, you know, and we go through cycles. I'm going to talk a little bit about cycles later on as well. I think that's very, very, especially when it comes to menopause. But when it comes to trackers and tracking our stuff, one of the things that's a trend now is the wearable devices, right? You know, for helping you sleep. And look, they have their place, but I just feel people have created an anxiety around using these devices that are too dependent on them. And I say, go back to pen or paper and tune into yourself and ask yourself, well, how am I feeling, rather than, well, my watch says this about me. My watch says I didn't sleep well. My watch says I'm going to be tired today. Do you know what I mean? It just sounds ridiculous when you think about it. So again, tune into your body and really listen is very important. So Ashleigh, God, you've got 12 years in the pharmaceutical world and nursing, and so you've really seen the both sides of the world here, and you know what works and what doesn't work, and there is a place for everything, as you say, as well. But I think in this day and age, we really need to start coming back to healthcare, you know, as in how we're feeling, rather than wait until we're sick. Not sick care. We don't want the sick. Well, the sick care happens if it's gone too late, but we want to look after ourselves. We want to live a quality, fulfilled life, not one that's in pain all the time. So where do you see most of the problems, Ashleigh? What are the typical symptoms that you would see in women who are perimenopausal or menopause, or what were the typical symptoms that we can address here today? The ability to rest is the body's key to healing. Do you struggle with getting asleep at nighttime, or staying asleep during the night and waking up the next morning feeling absolutely exhausted? My book, How to Get a Good Night's Sleep, is easy to understand, it's solution-based, and it's packed with research to help you take back control of your night's sleep. My book is available on Amazon, and it's also available on howtogetaggoodnightsleep.com. This book is also available in audio and ebook. So get your copy today and start having the best night's sleep that you've only ever dreamed of.
So I would say the top complaint for practically everyone post-pandemic is sleep disturbance. You probably are well aware of that. And that has a particular profile in our 40s and 50s in perimenopause and menopause, when night sweats or just general raised heat levels can actually disturb sleep. So sleep is a big issue for lots of women in perimenopause and menopause. And again, mentioning what you did earlier about paying attention, I always ask people to pay attention to their sleep at the weekend, or perhaps Friday, Saturday and Sunday nights, because very often at that time, if we're having alcohol at the weekend, it's often a time that our body doesn't like too much alcohol, and so sleep can often be much more disturbed at that time. And the second biggest challenge for most of us in our 40s and 50s is poor energy, or particularly if you're in your 40s, what I call fluctuating energy. So you get up, you feel great, and by 3 o'clock someone's pulled the plug.
It's so annoying.
And that's very frustrating, particularly in your 40s, when you may not have perimenopause or menopause on your radar at all. And so many women will go to the doctor, have their bloods done, be told they're normal, and then come to me crying, saying, if my bloods are normal, how come I feel so crap?
Yeah.
And it's because of that fluctuation. In our 40s, in particular in perimenopause, the hormones aren't just declining, they're doing this. And so some days you can take on the world and have lots of energy, and other days it's like as though someone pulled the plug. So sleep and energy are two big ones. And after that, then I think brain fog certainly comes in, particularly for those who are, needing to push towards their edge a lot at work. And then the next one I would say that comes up a lot is mood stroke motivation. And people often call it their motivation rather than their mood, because it's not about having a low mood. It's about just not really giving a toss.
Yeah.
Or not having the energy to care, knowing they should go out for that walk, but actually, I'm just too tired and I can't be bothered. I'll do it tomorrow. And that piece where I call it meh, we know what we should do. And
that's a very big point. That's a very big point, because we need to have like a purpose, kind of, something that gets us up out of bed in the morning, because if we don't have that, life's just boring. We're just existing. We've nothing to be doing. Do you know what I mean? So purpose
and purpose that is more than just being what I call a service provider. Many women are brilliant at making sure everyone else in their life and work are okay. They're the great service provider. And then how often does it happen that we fall off our own to-do list
Yeah.
and don't get for the walk or don't get to bed early or just the basics? And that has an impact on our contentment levels and on our sense of worth and our sense of purpose and value. And so for lots of us, I don't know if you remember, Joanne, years ago, perimenopause, well, menopause particularly, was called the change.
Yeah.
And I always think it was such a great name because really it is time for us to change. It's time to change what we're doing, how much time we're giving to everyone else, how much of a service provider we're going to be, and how much we're actually going to claim back for ourselves.
Yeah.
And so that's a big one. There's the silent trudging through life where, well, this must be the way it is now.
Oh.
And honestly, there's more than that. And you know that. And I'm 58, but I had an early menopause. So I know absolutely there is light at the end of the tunnel. And it starts with the basics, I would say.
That's great, like that you've come through an awful lot, and you had it very early, obviously, as well. I'm sure that must have been quite difficult having it so early. Like, how did because the doctors are like, oh, you have to be this age at least, and otherwise they're like, no, you're not menopausal.
So it's fascinating. I just posted recently that probably these days more than half of the clients who come to work with me are already on HRT before they ever get in touch with me, compared with 15, 16 years ago, or even longer, when HRT wasn't that readily available and in actual fact wasn't being prescribed much at all. So perimenopause also wasn't a thing. I remember being in my very early 40s, repeatedly going to the doctor. And remember, I had my nursing information available to me saying, I think I'm in menopause. I think I'm in menopause, and being told either, Pat, don't be daft, you're far too young to be in menopause, or instead being offered antidepressants, which would have been absolutely appropriate if I was depressed, but I was actually in menopause. That's the problem.
I mean, antidepressants are very widely prescribed these days, and particularly women. And, it's thought that women, like what you said earlier, women have many roles, and especially in midlife, right? They're going through the change, all the hormonal stuff. But not only that, they may have teenagers now living in and they're very hard to live with sometimes. They may be looking after elderly parents. So there's a lot of things to contend with in the household. They may be a career woman themselves. So in midlife, it's not just the hormones, it's all these other things that we're contend with. And you're right, we give ourselves, because that's what's expected of us. It's like a true, the nature of things. That's what's expected from a woman, but we forget to look after ourselves then. And so there's a lot that we've contend with. So it's no wonder that we end up getting depressed and burnt out and all of this, but it can be very misunderstood and mistaken.
Well, there's no doubt that these days, at least when a woman is going into her GP, he or she is more likely now, thanks to Joe Duffy and all of the noise that's out there, is much more likely to at least consider menopause as something that needs to be addressed, rather than simply mood and the need for antidepressants. And again, for many women, they respond to a certain amount to HRT and then still may need to have antidepressants added. Where appropriate, they can be incredible medicines.
Yeah.
But I'm always asking, women to make sure that they go through the basics first. In other words, if they're thinking about starting medication of any sort, that it's worth discussing with their GP whether or not the thyroid function is good, because as you know, an underactive thyroid can give you many of the same symptoms that appear with perimenopause and menopause, and HRT won't help with an underactive thyroid. So
that's something we should be getting checked every year, Ashleigh. Is that what you're saying with the thyroid?
Well, certainly what I would say is, if you are in your 40s and haven't had your bloods done for a few years, and let's face it, most of us didn't want to be bothering doctors during the pandemic, so we stayed away. But if symptoms are appearing now, and you can't seem to explain them. They're not transitory in nature. For me, it just makes good common sense to discuss with your doctor about having bloods done. Whether you need them done annually afterwards, you may not. It may be adequate to do them every 2 years, depending on your symptom improvement with whatever treatment is prescribed. Years ago, I used to be in health food shops, and people would pop in, and the famous question was always, is there anything you have there for energy, for poor energy? And I'd ask, so how long has energy been low? And invariably someone would look at me as though I'd say, I don't think I've ever had good energy, or maybe 3 years now. If energy levels are low on an ongoing basis, we need to eliminate some of the physical reasons behind it before we start assuming that actually, it might be this or it might be that. A blood test, very simple to do.
I love that you said the basics, getting back to basics. That's exactly what I say about the sleep as well, because a lot of people, they come to me with sleep problems. I can't sleep, help me sleep better. But I say to them, it's not the sleep mechanisms necessarily. It's what you're doing during the daytime. And look at all the toxins in our environment. So toxins is a huge thing as well, especially with our hormones. And I say, are you drinking filtered water? Are you getting plenty of fresh air? Like, this is probably just a basic thing that people would kind of fob off because it's too basic. Do you know what I mean? But we need oxygen. Most of us are spending our time indoor, most of our time, 90% of the time indoors, and there's indoor air pollutants, from our carpets, the gases that are given off our stove, and all this sort of thing. So we need to open our windows. This is something I say about the bedroom. Open your bedroom window in the morning, let out all that CO2, because it is air pollutants. These are basics, eat nutritious, just real foods. We can talk about nutrition all day till the cows come home, but at the end of the day, it's eat real food. And obviously there's the plant foods as well for the estrogen type foods or whatever. We'll talk about that in a second. But all these are basics that we need to do first, and it's so powerful.
It is so powerful. And I think what we forget is that making small changes can really make a massive difference. Sometimes we mightn't feel like going for a walk because it looks like it might rain. Certainly that's an idea. It might rain, so I might need to. The question is, will I regret going for a 20-minute walk after I come back? The answer is, of course not.
I mean, it's a 5-minute walk.
Exactly. Around food, I'm not a nutritionist, but the question I'll always ask myself and pose to people to ask themselves is, would you be happy sharing on social media what you ate, drank, and ingested on screen time for the last week? Yeah, that'll tell you whether or not it's healthy or not. So, we can sometimes complicate things. Yeah, real food is real food, and sometimes we're too busy and we're going to eat less than lovely foods. But if we're doing that a lot, there's a lovely quote, you probably know it, Joanne, from Jim Rohn from a long time ago that just really struck me when I heard it a long time ago, which is, take care of your body. It's the only place you have to live. And really, what we put in to our body, how we treat our bodies well, that will make a difference. Illness can happen, life stages happen, but we can't expect to ignore our bodies and get away with it long term. And we feel better when we're looking after this precious thing that we're lucky enough to still have.
When we honor it, absolutely. And I say to people, get it right 80% of the time. Don't try to be perfect all the time. Like, have your cream bun if you want now and again. Because, I do enjoy like a chocolate bar with a cup of tea. I really do enjoy that. And that makes me feel good, like it's like a reward or whatever. But I don't do it all the time. Do you know what I mean? I don't have a chocolate bar for my breakfast. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly, for sure.
Talk to us about the estrogen and progesterone. Just give us an overview, just in case people aren't aware, because it's surprising that people aren't aware what these hormones are in relation to perimenopause and menopause.
Sure. So all women have many hormones in their body. The ones that we know most about and that are talked about a lot more are estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. There's lots of discussions going on social media in groups and things like that about what you should be on and how much you're taking. And I think you should ask for this. And it can be a bit overwhelming for people. Your perimenopause, your journey through your 40s and 50s is yours. Doesn't matter what worked for your sister, your mother, your auntie, or your best friend. You need to find the solution that's going to be right for you. And you'll do that by paying attention and by having clear, frank discussions with your GP. Estrogen is the big one. And really, by the time we've reached 50, there's been a significant drop in estrogen levels already in our body. That's normal and healthy and part of our aging process. But as I said, what happens is this starts to happen in perimenopause, that fluctuation. The important thing I would say is that because HRT is much more accessible now, it is really important that whatever you're prescribed, you're taking. That sounds obvious, but people sometimes don't like how they feel on certain medications or don't remember to take certain medications. If you're in perimenopause and your GP has prescribed estrogen, whether that's in a pump, in a gel, in a patch or tablet, however, and has also prescribed progesterone for you, even if that's only on certain days of the month, it's important that you're taking it as it's prescribed. Yeah. If it's not suiting you, you go back to the doctor and tell him or her about it. The progesterone is important in that perimenopausal woman. It keeps the estrogen, I'm going to say, safe in our bodies. For lots of older women, they may be just put on estrogen only. And lately, we are seeing the introduction of testosterone for some symptoms such as low libido or energy levels. Again, talk to your doctor because he or she is going to know your history and what you can take and what will be suitable given your medical history and also your tendencies in terms of the diseases that are in your family history as well. They're all powerful hormones and can generate symptoms. For many women, though, I'm going to say this is for many women, they pretty much sail through their perimenopause, menopause, and into postmenopause with barely any symptoms. And for them, they may never need HRT or other supplements or treatments or supports at all. The one thing all of us do need to pay attention to, regardless of whether or not we have symptoms, are our bone health and our cardiovascular health, because estrogen protects both of those. So if you've never needed anything and you're now in your 50s, you need to be paying attention to your cholesterol levels, your cardiovascular risks generally, but also your bone health, because estrogen will help bone turnover. And we want to make sure that as we age through 60s, 70s, 80s and beyond, we have strong, healthy bones and good cardiovascular risk profiles.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And talk to us about resistance training, because this is something a lot of women need to do as well to keep the muscle mass up.
Big time. So many of us, you mentioned, we're sitting down, we're inside, we think we're great if we get 10,000 steps done, or maybe only get to that at the weekend. And we're not moving so much. Our bodies are designed to move. Once we get into our mid-30s, anyhow, we start to lose some muscle. It's a normal event that happens as we age, but it continues as we move through each decade. And that's true for men too. This is important for a load of reasons. One, who doesn't want to stay fit and strong as they age? Who doesn't want to be able to pull a big shopping trolley out and know that they're not struggling with it or thinking they're going to give themselves a prolapse? You want to be able to take that trolley and move it and know that you're feeling strong. To do that, we need good, strong muscles, and resistance training can help both our muscles, but also our bones too. It doesn't always mean lifting weights, because some people get a bit scared around that. But something like reformer Pilates can actually be really, really useful because, again, it's using weight and helping to build strength and bones.
You know what I do? I do on my counter, right? On my countertop, I put my hands out on the countertop and I just stand back a couple of feet and I just do press ups on the countertop. So I'm resisting my weight, my body weight. That's what I'm doing. So I don't go to a gym.
And you know what, Joanne? If you click on your kettle and do that, and perhaps do a squat or do some other movement that will allow you to literally move your body while you're waiting for the kettle to boil or while there's a microwave to ping, whatever it is you do, it doesn't take a lot for us to start building muscle. When you're preparing food, the cans can be used as weights. There's no need to do very expensive things. We can do it very simply ourselves at home.
Yeah, I get creative. I love it. Yeah, and that's habit stacking that you're talking about, because a lot of people, we talk about habits and routine, and we want to be doing these good habits without having to think, oh God, I have to do this, because we're not going to do it if we're thinking, oh, I have to do this. So stack it on top of habits that you're already doing. So if you're making your cup of tea in the morning, something that you might do every morning, or your coffee, I love what's his name, Dr. Zach Bush, 5-minute workout. Look it up on YouTube. 5-minute workout, right? And it's only 5, but it's working all the muscles in your body. It's doing squats and doing arm things, and it's getting your the nitric oxide, which is it's that miracle molecule they call the nitric oxide, and it's great for opening up the blood vessels and all of this, the nitric oxide. So yeah, look up that Zach Bush. I'll put a link in the show notes actually for the viewers, but that's a 5 that we can do that will help with cardiovascular nitric oxide, because cardiovascular and heart disease is a very, very big one, and it definitely helps with that. Talk to us about, my God, I could talk to you all day, Janie Mac, there's loads. We talked about rhythms, right? And we know with the menstrual cycle, there's a rhythm, and, you know, as human beings, we've evolved through nature with all these rhythms, you know, daily rhythms, the circadian rhythm. People have often heard me talk about that, the infradian rhythm, which is like the monthly cycle. It's also associated with the seasonal cycle. There's all these different cycles that our body is attuned to with nature. So this is one of the reasons why, and when you talk about getting back to basics, getting more outdoors, grounding ourselves in the grass, you know, being outside in the fresh air, getting sunlight. Light is very, very important, especially the full spectrum of sunlight, the near infrared light that we get from the sunlight. This helps with our energy levels as well, and it helps for hormonal production and all this, and balance and everything. So my point is, when we're in rhythm, when we're aligned to rhythms, you know, so doing something first thing in the morning, like doing exercise first thing in the morning, and, you know, not eating too late before we get to bed, all these things help with our hormonal health, helping us to sleep better, because it's all interconnected. Like what you said at the beginning of the podcast, it's all interconnected, what we're doing, all our daily activities. We need to do exercise. We need to not be sitting down for too long. We need to move. Sitting is the new disease, as they say. So all these rhythms and getting back into nature and getting back to basics helps us on all levels, including our hormonal health, and helps us sleep better and helping us to heal and reduce those fluctuations that you were talking about, Ashleigh, because that's
much so.
That's what's causing the problem.
And also, Joanne, as you know, that there are rhythms that will work for us at the pace of life. Is very often quite fast. A lot of people have a sense of urgency in their day with not much time to be able to wind down properly. And sometimes we think, oh, if I'm postmenopausal, if I don't have a menstrual cycle anymore, I don't notice. Maybe I don't have a rhythm I follow. And I love to pay attention to even the moon cycle and to see how that can impact our energy, our sleep. And you know, I always go, it's not woo-woo. It's actually so that you can feel better. Yeah. So, for example, if you know that in the days before your period, energy is a little bit lower, then you can begin to actually change what you expect from yourself. Say no to the committee meeting, ask a friend to be able to do the run to soccer or GA, so that you can begin to go, actually, that's the day. I'm always a bit tired and grumpy around then. So let's expect less of me on those days so that I can be and have more of me.
Yeah, absolutely. We can have a calendar of the days that we can do this and that. It's true. It really is true. If you're doing a big event, like, if you're an entrepreneur like me or something, don't do it around the time of your period.
Exactly. For sure. And there's a reason for that. It's only when we push past this and insist that our body does certain things that we sometimes get some of the symptoms of overwhelm or anxiety and burnout, which
natural. It's there's nothing wrong. It's natural. Yeah,
exactly.
And we just have to honor. And nature done this on purpose. As a female, person, nature done this on purpose. So we need to honor that and take advantage. Use those quiet times to be more creative or whatever. But really honoring our body and not going about, because when we resist it, that's when we have the problems, as you say, when we go against the flow, go against the rhythm. Talk to us about, I've written down here herbs. I want to talk to you about herbs. So a lot of people go for supplements and all this kind of thing, but there is herbs that we can use that will help us balance our hormones. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very fortunate. I have a colleague who's a herbalist who I will often go to and ask information about herbs. So there are some herbs that are over the counter, herbs such as Agnus castus, such as sage. These are very commonly used for symptoms of night sweats or perimenopause and menopause. But like all medications, herbs are simply medications in herbal form. They can have some contraindications and they can have some interactions with medications. So what I'll always say is, while sage is absolutely the first call for many for night sweats, it may not be suitable if you have a history of seizures, and depending on the medications you're on, may not be suitable either. Same with Agnus castus. So always check with the pharmacist or the health food store if you are using these herbs. But they are fabulous and suitable very often when somebody isn't suitable for conventional medication.
Yeah, brilliant. I'm glad you said that. Yeah, absolutely, because it's a natural form of medication, if you like. Yeah. So
yes,
brilliant.
Exactly.
We're coming near the end, and I just want to rapid fire through a few things as well. You mentioned night sweats there, and I have something here. I did a Q&A webinar there recently, and a lot of people have this problem with the night sweats. Some of them have a very, very severe, where they're literally waking up drenched, right? So I have this. Let me just take this out of the packet. This is a gel pillow I love it. The gel pillow. So anyone listening on the audio podcast, I'm just holding up it's like a gel pillow. It's a very thin, so you can literally slip it. This cost me €11, right? It's available in most shops, right? It's one of those JML products. And you can literally slip it in underneath your pillowcase in your pillow, and it's very cool. So it's just
beautiful.
What I love about it as well is you can fold it up. If you're going on the plane, if you're traveling on the plane and it gets very, very hot, just before takeoff, it's like roasting. So you can literally sit on this. You can carry it in your carry-on bag. It's
fantastic.
And you can sit on it. It will help cool you down. You can put it across your lap. If you're one of those people who puts the laptop on your lap, not that I encourage that, because EMF is a big thing, that it's an invisible toxin, folks. We need to watch.
Absolutely.
Turn your Wi-Fi off at night time. But anyway, this is something that's a godsend. You can literally stick it in your bed and just put your feet on it. There's loads of ways you can use it. So that's the gel thing for night sweats. Only €11.
Perfect.
No affiliate. I'm not affiliated with it or anything. I love it. But that's with the night sweats. There's something else I wanted to talk about as well, as BPA in hormonal disruptors. So that's just for people to be aware of hormonal disruptors. So the plastic bottles, the BPA can leach. So that's an estrogen.
It's an estrogen disruptor, and to be honest, there are so many of them. We could do a whole session just on those alone. You're well familiar with the amount of, I'm going to call them toxins, that we have in our world. A lot of the conveniences come with toxins, unfortunately. And so, be careful about the products that you use, and particularly for the water bottles. That's the one that I see people walking around with plastic water bottles. And I think,
yeah.
Dosing yourself every mouthful.
God. Yeah, like especially like if you have a water bottle, a lot of people are not aware of this. So if you have a water bottle, say it's a hot sunny day and you've got your water bottle in your car and the sun is heating it up, do not drink that bottle of water, throw it out. You can nearly taste the plastic in the water. So it's a hormone, it mimics estrogen. And then there is an estrogen dominance that we can have as well. Exactly. And then women do the makeup and the hairspray and the false tan and all this. There's toxins and all that. They're hormonal disruptors and neurotoxins as well. So it's really important for women to detoxify, Ashleigh.
Absolutely. And what I'll say is that the greatest example of how incredible our skin is as a method of giving ourselves either medicine, benefits, or poisons is to take a look at the size of the HRT patch. It's tiny. And one patch changed twice a week for most people is enough to give you all the estrogen that you need for symptom control. That's one tiny patch. Can you imagine all the other stuff that you're putting on your body in terms of some of those chemicals, the shower gel, the fake tan? Yeah. They matter.
As a professional qualified aromatherapist myself, Ashleigh, I used to make but I still do make skincare products. But 60% of what you put on the skin is absorbed into your bloodstream. So we need to be mindful of what we're putting. So if you're using essential oils, like you mentioned, sage, herbs, we can use sage essential oil as well. This is very good. But we should be mindful what we're putting on our skin because it can get absorbed into the skin. But there's another thing as well is the magnesium gel or magnesium lotion. This is something that I tell because there's lots of magnesium supplements that people take, but a lot of them, there's loads of various different forms, but a lot of them are not bioavailable. In other words, you just take them and they pee them out like straight away. They're not even absorbed. But when you put them on your skin, it can absorb straight into your bloodstream. But having said that, I am somebody who suffers with migraines, especially around when I'm getting a period. They've lessened quite a lot now since I started taking magnesium threonate and glycinate. So there are two forms of magnesium that I use for migraines. And actually, in my health shop, the lady told me, she's very knowledgeable. I get so educated when I go down to that health shop. I'm not joking to you. But she said the glycinate she has found, and it's interesting when you get the feedback from all the other people, she's told me that all the women found the glycinate. The threonate was not available in the health shop. The glycinate was. So I have both. I ordered threonate online. I got it from America, Dr. McCullough. But the glycinate or threonate, they're the two, they pass the blood-brain barrier and it goes straight to the brain. So it's a really good, and magnesium, most of us are deficient in magnesium, and it's a relaxant. It helps with anxiety, helps us sleep better at night time, and it does hundreds of jobs in the body.
Absolutely.
So I want to throw that out. So listen, tell me, is there any other points that we haven't mentioned that you think is important to discuss or mention?
Well, I think it's probably no harm to mention that as this podcast is going out just before the start of October, in October we have World Menopause Day. Every year it's celebrated on the 18th of October. And this October, there are bound to be lots and lots of events, both online and in person, celebrating World Menopause Day and providing you with information about perimenopause and menopause. I deliver lots of awareness sessions and workshops, both in workplaces and in gyms and clubs around the country. So keep an eye out. I may be at a venue near you. But what I'll always say is be careful where you're getting your information. I'm sure you see it too. If it's on social media and it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. You know, there's a lot of stuff being sold, and there will be a lot of stuff sold in October for menopause. So just check stuff out. Ask Joanne or myself whether or not a product has credibility and has evidence to show that it works, and know that this is a powerful time in your life. Once you get symptoms under control, Yeah, there's no stopping us, really.
Yeah, and going back to the basics as well, Ashleigh, that like what you mentioned at the very beginning, like you can't underestimate the basics, you know, get out and get fresh air, ground yourself.
Sure.
We need more of those electrons in our body from grounding. And that's a whole other episode, but grounding is, such a powerful.
For sure. For anyone who wants to know a little bit more, I have a free ebook on perimenopause and menopause, your journey. And it includes some of those very basics. Check in with your own system to see where you're at before you ever go near your doctor, so you can check in with yourself so that when you are visiting your GP, you're going in an informed state, knowing that these are the symptoms you're having, why and for how long. And it will hopefully give you the little bum kick you need to go get your bloods done and get your symptoms under control.
Free gift. Woohoo! Where can they get that, Ashleigh?
So it's available on my website, ashleightobin.com, and I will send you the link so that we can pop it into the podcast itself, and people are more than welcome to get it and get in touch with me afterwards.
For anyone listening on the audio, that's ASHLEIGH, that's Ashleigh, and then Tobin, TOBIN. So ashleightobin.com. Is that right? That's correct.
That's it, exactly.
Brilliant. And you're on Facebook, LinkedIn as well, and Instagram?
I'm on LinkedIn, yes, absolutely. Ashleigh Tobin on Facebook, Ashleigh Tobin, Your Hormone Health, and on Instagram, Your Hormone Health. You'll find me there.
Brilliant. I signed up to one of your groups earlier on today. I don't know if you've seen that. So yeah, you've loads of great information there. I just had a sneaky peek around there. So yeah, so do connect with Ashleigh, and lots of really credible information from Ashleigh there. She's been in the industry for years, and as in the pharmaceutical, and so she's been in both areas. So she's really able to combine them and knows her stuff. So do connect with Ashleigh and do check her out for the Menopause Awareness Month in October. And I'm sure you'll have any events or whatever on your website, Facebook.
I will indeed.
Social media. Brilliant. Ashleigh, is there any last one nugget, one thing that you would like to just tell our audience to, you know, if nothing else, do this? What's the one piece of advice that you can really give to the audience?
Take 10 minutes after watching this podcast, 10 minutes, and check in with yourself. Mm-hmm. Check how your body's doing and give yourself a score 0 to 10. You're not allowed to use 7 because that's a lazy one. It's not too bad. Whereas you'll feel, oh, I'm a 6 or I'm an 8. Around your energy, your sleep, your diet, your motivation, your mood, the time you have for fun and connection. So just check in with you, how you're doing. We're lucky enough to still be alive today. Let's make sure we can give ourselves the best chance to feel great while we are. That's it.
And enjoy our later years as well, because you know what? I am really excited. Like I'm over the 50 hump, believe it or not. And I am really looking forward to my next stage, because my daughter is going into her teenage years, and I'm like, oh my God, I can do things now that I wasn't able to do when I had to be there for her all the time. So I'm really looking forward to the next stage, you know, I'll be able to get out and do more. So yeah, so it can be what you make it, Ashleigh. That's what I'm hearing, and checking in with yourself and in all the different areas of your life as well. And you know, what's working for you, what's not, and give it a number and then check back in and compare. That's what I can hear. So powerful message. Ashleigh, oh my goodness, that was a long conversation.
We could chat for ages.
There's so much to talk about. And I think this is so great, because this information we didn't have it like 40, 50 years ago, you know, and now it's been really highlighted now, you know, and just giving people more information and more power, basically, you know, to really enjoy their life and make the most of it. So Ashleigh, on that note, thank you so much for being here on the podcast. I really appreciate you and the work that you're doing in the world as well, because you're making it a better place for me too, believe it or not. So that's why I value and always have people like yourself on this podcast. So have a wonderful day, Ashleigh, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much. That's wonderful. Great to be here.
I do hope you are enjoying these conversations, and to help me continue pushing these videos and audio podcasts together, I do have an ask. I do need support to help me to keep bringing you knowledge and insights, there is a Patreon link, patreon.com/empowering family health, or you can make a donation via PayPal. All the links are in the description and the pinned comment. You can do a one-off or you can do a monthly support. So I'd really appreciate that. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Take care.